So while we're on the subject of these titans of industry, let's just discuss real quickly the different types of monopolies. Because there are different kinds of monopolies, and yes, these men own them all. There are different types of companies that you can have. We have holding companies, which is a corporation that is formed to hold or control the stock of the other companies. This is a form of a monopoly within a monopoly, which allows the corporation to control an entire industry. And if you've ever watched The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix a couple of years ago, I think that was a good example of a holding company. The company itself is there to hold on to the stocks and the shares and make sure that it's got control over the company and control over an industry. You also have trusts. Trusts are built of stockholders from different competing corporations who give their stocks to trustees in exchange for a stock certificate or a trust certificate that entitles them to a dividend, which means it's a certain amount of money each year. And the trustees will run the companies as if they are one, and in exchange for this, they get a little bit of extra money. You also have pools, which is a voluntary agreement among companies that's going to set production quotas, fix prices, and allocate sales and market territories, which means the companies are working together to make sure that they're all benefiting, which closes the market for other companies to come in and make money. And this one's kind of off the books. This is a gentleman's agreement. They're not really regulated. It's more of a group that meets together and says, like, all right, let's all charge $10 per train ticket. And then if you undercut that, you're undercutting the gentleman's agreement, and that's not really how things are done. And the reason that so much of this is able to happen is because business is very unregulated during the Gilded Age. We are operating under this concept of laissez-faire economics. This free market economics was introduced by a German man called Adam Smith in his book, The Wealth of Nations. Or it could be an essay. I don't remember if it was an essay or a book. We're just going to say book, okay? Adam Smith writes The Wealth of Nations, and he says that there is no need for government regulation because the invisible hand of the market forces regulation, right? We have this concept of supply and demand. The more that you make, the cheaper it gets as long as people don't want it in excess. And if you have too much and not enough demand, the price is going to go down, and then you're going to be left with this overstock. But according to Smith, the market will regulate itself accordingly, and there is absolutely no need for the government to get involved in the economy. It should just be left to regulate itself. However, government is allowed to regulate taxes and tariffs. So the goal behind laissez-faire economics is that the government stays out of the economic part of the supply and demand and regulating prices, but the government is allowed to apply low taxes to the corporations. They are allowed to put higher tariffs on products coming from other places. They are allowed to give business loans to businesses or land grants to businesses where the common man is not going to get this stuff, but the government will give it to businesses in the interest of business. And if all of this sounds very familiar today, then you can just realize that we are also living in the second Gilded Age here. And remember why it's called the Gilded Age. The courts are also going to protect private property, and government is going to kind of get involved in what land business can own and what land businesses can buy or take from other people. And they are going to work more on patents that protect innovation rather than invention. So the idea of something rather than the actual creation of something. And patents are in the Constitution. It's part of the congressional powers. But it'd be harder to patent an idea than it is to patent a product. But they're going to start working on that. And so laissez-faire economics is going to lead to, as you can imagine, massive political corruption. Because you want people in the government that are going to do your work for you, and you're going to do things that benefit you. So you're going to make sure that they get in there. On the flip side, there's going to be a lot of worker unrest. The common man is not happy about this, and we are not just going to lay down and take it. So There's going to be, during the Gilded Age, the formation of unions. We are going to see a push for labor laws and regulations, and a general upheaval that's actually not really going to be tamed until Theodore Roosevelt becomes president in the 1900s. But the Gilded Age businesses are defined by corruption and greed. No matter how much money these men gave back to the community in their later years, they are still the cornerstones of corruption and greed and the non government interference of business regulation that is still holding over today because the government works for the business, which is not how the government is supposed to work. So we will visit labor unions and the worker unrest. That is the end of our wrap up of the titans of industry in the Gilded Age. And there's a lot more like monopolies and stocks, but this is not an economics class. This is APUSH in 10, and we only have about 10 minutes. So if you want to know more about the economics part, you will either have to take an economics class or look it up because I simply don't have the videos to make for you. So if you want to take an economics class, I'm sure you'll find it fascinating and you can learn all about monopolies and trust companies. Otherwise, just go watch Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. That should do it for you.